always enjoy it and giving back where I can. So, my name is Trevor Zwick. I am based out of Central Florida. And today we're talking a little bit about kind of a wide range of obviously converting expired and canceled listings and a form of cold calling that people are, tend to be afraid of and don't enjoy and think it's the worst thing in the world, which it definitely can be at times. But we'll talk through it and see kind of where the challenges are and what the issues are and why everyone struggles with it a little bit. But I do want to point out, I'm going to jump into it. I have a slideshow, so you guys will see that too, and broken down a little bit of kind of what I'm going to go over. But I want to make sure this is interactive too, because there's a lot of open thoughts and comments and questions and concerns and a lot of things that people do run into. So please feel free to stop me if I can hear you. I don't know if you're too far away or where it is, but if I can hear you, please jump in or stop me, or I'm happy to answer any questions. So I will go ahead and start sharing my screen. Does anybody have any questions before I start?
I'm going to get my notebook, but please start.
Cool. Awesome. All right. I'm going to go ahead and jump into it. Okay. So can you guys see this?
Yes.
All right. Does that work? Okay. Awesome. All right. So this is kind of, like I mentioned, we're going to talk about converting, not just calling on, but converting expired and canceled listings today. Just a few of the points: mindset, tracking, progression, and conversion. Just a few of the focal points of what I find to be the most important when it comes to cold calling sessions or calling on expired and canceled listings in general. So switching over, I do want to kind of give everybody a little bit of background on me in person, just because I practice what I preach, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I've been into real estate now for coming up on 5 years. My first 2 years, I started, I didn't know what I was doing, right? I didn't know what escrow was. I didn't know what transactions were. I didn't know how to work through a contract. I didn't know anything. So I ended up joining a team, and on the team, I was a brand new agent. They're a well-established team in the town that I do live in. And I had to kind of figure out a way to make my way up and to figure out, just kind of what I'm doing, learn the business. And I joined the team to help with contracts and figure everything out, but also to help me with lead flow for myself, because I was so brand new. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, right? And in doing so and joining that team, there was a pecking order, and I quickly learned that and tried to figure out how to get around that. So the established agents that were with her for a while got a lot of the lead flow, got a lot of the business, a lot of stuff that came in, Zillow phone calls that came in from her reputation. All of that was fed directly to the established agents, and rightfully so. I understand. I was brand new. I didn't know what I was doing. Well, I knew that real estate was an important factor, and I wanted to do this. So I had to figure out a way to feed my family, right? So I have 4 kids at home under the age of 9. My wife's a stay-at-home mom, and I jumped into this thing, and this was my only option. I had to figure out a way to make it work. So started looking at some different ideas and different thoughts. And, I came across, I use a platform called Mojo Sells, which is my cold calling platform. And I saw a lot of people that were utilizing it, a lot of coaches, people were seeing success from it. And I thought, well, let me give it a try and see what I can do. And they did not have any of this platform or anything set up prior to me starting. Now, when I started with them, I had to go to the team leader, convince her, talk to her about signing up for the program, getting everything situated, and figuring out what I kind of wanted to do, and get a little bit of confidence from her in allowing me to do so. So from there, started cold calling, picked up my first listing, got a lot of stuff situated, found some success, became one of the top agents on our team, then transitioned over to Keller Williams. I've been with Keller Williams now for about 2.5 years, starting to build my own team. And I still, to this day, cold calling expired and canceled listings. And I actually just put a canceled listing from a previous agent under contract that I've had listed for a while, and that one is set to close in June. So it still works. It's still a lead flow platform for me, and it's still something I continue to work on every day. So the reason I mentioned, working on expired and canceled being brand new. However, the one thing I didn't touch on right away was I had a lot of struggles. I had a lot of rejection. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what the conversation framework looked like. I didn't know what my scripts would look like. I was like blind leading the blind, I guess you could say. So everything kind of changed a little bit, excuse me, once I started my first, after calling for a while and got my first listing appointment. That first listing appointment I did end up booking, and I did end up getting the listing. Once that happened, everything just completely changed, and it was a snowball effect from there. So I will go ahead and just kind of jump into it a little bit. So what I mean by it was a snowball effect and where that first listing appointment came from was because of the way I was talking to sellers and the way that I was having my conversation framework while I was on the phone dialing through expired and canceled listings. When I first started cold calling, I thought I downloaded every script I could possibly find, from Tom Ferry to Mike Ferry to Buffini to anybody that I could possibly come up with. I used every one of those scripts. And when I first started with these people and started making these phone calls, I did nothing but read like a robot on the phone call. And, hi, I'm Trevor. I see you're selling 123 Main Street, on and on and on, just reading from a script. My opinion is that doesn't work. And when you're calling on expired and canceled listings, these sellers are getting a million phone calls a day. And I actually use that as one of my opening lines to initiate and break down the wall of the phone call that I'm having with them. Now, the one thing we need to get our minds around and shift our mindset is that when you're calling these sellers, as I mentioned on the slide, they're frustrated, they're skeptical, and they're overwhelmed. They had a property on the market. They had a plan to sell that property. They wanted to sell it, and they had plans moving forward for the future, and that didn't happen. So as you can imagine, they are frustrated. When you're getting 1,000 phone calls a day, as you can imagine, they're also feeling very overwhelmed, and they're very annoyed with the amount of people that are reaching out to them. So my phone calls to them are completely shifting in the way I'm having the conversations, because it's not, you have so many agents around you in the areas locally that are having these conversations, making these phone calls, and they're just robotic. They don't have any emotion tied to this. They don't understand the sellers are frustrated. They don't understand that they had plans that all fell through. They don't understand the situation that they're in. So when I'm making these phone calls, excuse me, I'm sorry. When I'm making these phone calls, I am calling from a servant leadership mindset. I am calling to help them because I know I can help them, and I know I'm good at what I do. I just have to showcase why and allow them to give me the opportunity to meet with them in person to show how I can help them. I'm not trying to sell them over the phone. I'm doing nothing but trying to book an appointment to get in front of them to showcase what I'm able to do. I'm sorry, I have got over a little bit of a cold this weekend. While I'm trying to meet with them in person, that is the entire goal and purpose of my phone call. So many people think that they're going to sell a house, list a house, go under contract. Everything is being done over the phone. That's not the case. I am strictly trying to book an appointment with these people to look at their home, to take a look at why it didn't sell, what the issues that they ran into, and understand how I can help them and how I can help them get to the situation that they're trying to accomplish. Excuse me. We'll go to the next slide. Does anybody have any questions in the meantime right now?
Well, you might get to this later, but where are you getting these listings at? Yeah, he
You
said
mean where the
Mojo
list that I'm calling from?
sells. You get it? Okay.
So Mojo Sells is, I can only get to so much of it for now, but we can get to that point, and you feel free to call me. I'll share my contact info after this too. But Mojo Sells is the platform that I'm using now, that I've been using for quite some time. So it's a form of like a CRM system, but essentially it's updated every day for all expired and canceled listings. It provides phone numbers, email addresses, the addresses, the Zillow link to the property. So you can see the QuickTime photos, take a look at everything. You can see what it was listed at, cross-reference in MLS. They have expired, cancel listings, for sale by owners. It's a very, very good tool. And you have what's called a triple line dialer, which is basically dialing 3 phone numbers at a time. So it's just another useful tool. But I can showcase that a little bit more, and feel free to call me after the fact too. Anybody else have any other questions? Nope. Okay. All right. So one of the biggest struggles that everyone runs into when starting to cold call is getting frustrated and quitting too soon. Now, when I mentioned earlier about me first starting, I absolutely got frustrated, and I didn't realize it until I was in the situation. It took me 30 days of nonstop calling for 4 to 6 hours a day before I even booked my first listing appointment. And as you can imagine, the frustration that comes from that is very easy to just back out and say, this isn't working, I don't want to do it anymore. Excuse me. The reason that wasn't working is because of my conversation framework and how I was having my conversations with these sellers. Now, I was reading through a script, and I was utilizing every bit of information that I was tracking. But anytime anyone hung up on me, or anytime anyone cussed at me or yelled at me or sweared at me or whatever may have happened, I got frustrated, and I absolutely took it personally. And the thing is, when you're cold calling and making these phone calls and you're taking things personally, it affects your energy level. It affects the way you're talking to people, and people can feel that through the phone. So I had to learn that when making these phone calls, it just gets to the point where you cannot be frustrated. You can't take things personally. And everyone, just because they're yelling or swearing or cussing at you, if that does happen, that's not a reflection of you. That's a reflection of all the other phone calls and the frustration that they've gotten from all the phone calls that they've already received for the same situation. So I had to find a way to stick out and stand out and make a difference, so somebody was willing to actually meet with me in person. Now, once we got through that first 30 days, I was frustrated because I wasn't getting the listing appointments that I thought I would get. I thought I would jump on the phone within the first week and have 4 listing appointments booked and be done and finished, and everything would be great. That didn't happen. After that 30-day mark, I was at the point where the team leader didn't want to pay for the service anymore. She didn't know if she wanted to even continue on. So I had to figure out something if that wasn't going to work. I finally got to the point on that 30-day mark where somebody was cussing out and yelling at me, and I got frustrated, took it personally. And then at that point in time, I was about done for the day, but I got on, made another hour's worth of phone calls. And my very next phone call, that conversation I had with someone, I told myself, I'm just going to be a human being. I'm not using the script. I'm going to, once they answer the phone, have a conversation with them, ask probing questions, figuring out why it didn't work, why they felt the property didn't sell, and then figure out a solution from there. The very first phone call, I stopped acting like a robot and reading off a script and just having a conversation. I booked my first listing appointment. And from that point, I realized, like a light bulb went off, that it's all about having a human connection, a human conversation, figure out what their pain point is, and figure out a solution to help them walk through the process of selling their home, moving on to their property, or wherever it is their next step is going to be. So we'll move on to the next one. And okay. So one factor when it comes to cold calling is most people don't want to do it because they are scared of the rejection, or they don't know what type of response they're going to get. They don't know what to expect, and they're scared of making the phone calls. They don't know what to say. They don't know what conversation to have. From that point on, once you get over the hesitation, learn the conversations, learn the framework, from that point on, it's nothing about just building consistency, creating a time block, creating your time for your 2-hour window for your lead generation period, whether that's calling on expired, canceled, or for sale by owners, or whatever the case may be. And when I started to success from it is once I put those skills into play. Now, one big factor when it comes to cold calling and dialing is having the conversations, how you're speaking to people, and what's going to allow you to be able to convert into actual listing appointments themselves. However, in order to do that, one of the biggest changes that I made was my tracking and my accountability. When I went in blindly and I was having these conversations and just using from a script and just reading through everything, I didn't feel like I was making a difference. I didn't have any idea how many phone calls I was making. I didn't have any idea how many contacts I was making, how many dials I was making, what listing appointments generated from it. I didn't have any idea how many listings sold, what other contracts came from any of the conversations that I was having. So I had to completely flip the script on everything. And when I did so, I started tracking everything in all the phone calls, all my conversations, everything that I have, and I will go into my next sheet, which is this one right here. Can you guys see this new sheet I created? You guys see this one?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Yes.
So there has to be a tracking metric when it comes to having these conversations and talking to anyone that you're trying to talk to. So my goal is to list 48 homes per year. And I've broken down all of my conversations, what I want taking, what I want in pending reserves, and just a constant reminder of who I am, what the conversations I'm having, who I'm talking to, what goals that's going to get me to. And this is my framework that I've started for myself. And once doing this, this has allowed me to have an idea how many phone calls I need to make, how many conversations I need to have, how many listings I need to have weekly. And this all stems from being able to get onto the phone on Mojo Sales for expired and canceled listings. Now, let me switch back over to just a second. Does anybody have any questions on my sheet? This is just a quick glance for everybody to see kind of what I use in my framework.
The sheet. I love this sheet. Yeah, can we get a copy of that, please?
I'm sorry, there were a couple people talking. You said you loved it, and what was that?
If we could get a copy of it.
Of course, of course. So there's a couple of them that I use. This one personally for me. This was put together and created for my framework for myself. But there's another one that I can send a copy of. Are you guys familiar with Glover U?
Yes.
Okay. So Glover U, they also have a daily contact sheet that I use as well. That's also very standardized. That I can absolutely send you guys a copy of that too. So I will definitely share these with it. And Aaron, I'll share all this with you after the fact. Okay. So that's where tracking and accountability really came into play for me. Now, the one thing I want to keep in mind with this is I am now at the point, after doing this for 4+ years of calling in expired and canceled listings, I can now create and track where my business is coming from. Now, being on my own, as you can imagine, there are other lead gen pillars that do come into play with, your sphere of influence, your past clients, all these things are created, but my business started from expired and canceled listings. And being able to track the conversations and to know exactly where I stand helps me predict what type of business my business will look like for the year. For instance, when I get onto Mojo Sales, I know that over a 1-hour period, depending on how many conversations I have, in a 1-hour period, I can dial 150 phone calls. And in a 2-hour period, I can dial 300 phone calls. In a 2-hour lead generation time frame, at this point in time, I know that I can jump on the phone for 2 hours, lead gen on expired and canceled listings, and I can book at least one listing appointment from that 2-hour session. However, that has come over time of me tracking, knowing my numbers, knowing my dials, knowing my phone calls, knowing my conversations, and how many conversations I need to have to book my listing appointments. That all is business that you can track once you get to a point where you're comfortable, you understand your conversations, you understand how to convert expired and canceled listings, and just figure out how to talk through these conversations, figure out the pain points, ask your probing questions, and just book your appointment. Everything else falls into play from there. Now, yes. Go ahead.
How many hours a day are you spending doing dialing on expired and canceled listings?
How many hours a day should I, or how many hours do I? Big difference between the two.
How many hours are you doing it? Are you doing it every day? And how many hours do you think you should be doing?
So the business transitions a lot, and I don't know where everyone is obviously in their business, but the one thing I've noticed for me over the last couple of years is my business has transitioned, and I have a lot of hobbies that I have, friends that I've made locally, sphere of influence, my past clients, all of my people that I'm connected to. Obviously, my database is continuing to grow. So when I first started in real estate and I was trying to get started, I was calling strictly on expired and canceled listings because I didn't have any past clients. I didn't have a sphere of influence. I'm actually originally from Michigan. So I was brand new to Florida. I didn't have anyone here. I didn't have anything. I didn't have any connections. I had to figure out how to make it work. So when I first started, I was calling expired and canceled listings from anywhere from 4 to 8 hours a day. Now I know that's crazy. That's insane. But I had a family at home. I had mouths to feed. I had to figure out something, right? So now, because of different transactions and working through everything and building and a lot more, my goal every day is 2 hours per day in the morning now, and what that looks like is also a little bit different. So currently right now, what my goal is 2 hours every morning, Monday through Friday. It's probably realistically about 2 hours every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for me right now. Just because of other different, obligations and different platforms. I'm in BNI groups, a lot of other different stuff that I'm using as lead gen. However, Monday, Wednesday, Friday that I'm on the phone lead genning, 1 hour of those 2 hours generally is still calling on expired and canceled listings. My other hour is calling on my database, my past clients, sphere of influence, all that kind of stuff. Hopefully that helped answer that question a little bit. Any other questions before I get moving? Nope. All right. Okay, so the one thing that has been consistent for me, and the one thing that I'd never even anticipated happening from calling and converting on expired and canceled listings, was the repeat business from multiple other avenues. So I have we talked a little bit about my daily follow-up or dedicated time blocking, I guess you could say. In doing so and creating these expired and canceled listings, once you are able to book a listing appointment, convert a listing, and get properties on the market, or create that sphere of influence or past clients or whoever it is that you're using, once you get those to start closing, getting those under contract, getting those moving over a period of time, those will create more business for you just in other ways outside of just those expired and canceled listings. Those expired and canceled listings are your low-hanging fruit right now of business. And I like to look at it as two different areas of business. Your expired and canceled listings are your right now business. The listings that are on the market, that wanted to sell, that wanted to make things happen, that had a plan, had a progress of something that they were looking to do. If you're just starting in business, that is my number one area for you to focus on right now. Now, that low-hanging fruit, short-term, right now business also creates long-term business, and that's where you're seeing our CRM organization for those expired and canceled listings come into play. I've had multiple expired and canceled listings that have sold their home, didn't have a plan, were moving out of state, or things have happened, and years down the road, they called me about moving back to Florida, purchasing a home, buying something else, or referring me to other people of theirs, or referring to, they saw the success that was created from listing their property and selling their property. So they referred, and it was just a snowball effect of more business. So I mention that because I want everyone to have a bigger picture of calling on your expired and canceled listings for your right now business is not just right now business. So I can't harp enough for using your CRM and tracking all of this information, knowing exactly who you're calling, know exactly where all your clients are coming from, staying in touch with them on a regular basis. Your calling on expired and canceled listings does not need to be just expired and canceled listings. Your focus can be booking listing appointments, starting with those initially, but that creates business down the road for you. So I want to encourage you that once you don't have to be calling on expired and canceled listings forever, it's just a point of right now business to help grow your business, to get you off the ground and to get learning. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit on, I mentioned that I don't like scripts. and I absolutely hate them. I don't believe in them. I don't like them. I don't think that those are going to be the difference maker when it comes to differentiating yourself. Now, that took me 30 days of 4 to 6 to 8 hours a day to learn the hard way. So hopefully this can kind of help you understand what your conversations can look like. Now, I'll just kind of run through quickly on just kind of my introduction of what a conversation starts with. So let's say I'm calling Tom from 123 Main Street. So I'll call Tom. Tom will answer and say hello. I'll say, hey, Tom, this is Trevor. I was calling on 123 Main Street. I know you've probably received about 1 million phone calls today. I was just calling to see, is that your property? And I'm calm, cool, and collected in my conversation. Generally, he'll answer and say, yes, it's my property. But if you notice when I got on the phone, I did not ask how he was doing. And the reason I did not ask how he was doing is because he's received 1 million of these phone calls. And with him receiving 1 million of these phone calls, if I say, how are you doing? It opens up the avenue for him to completely shut me down and say, oh, I'm terrible. I got 1 million of these phone calls. What do you want? Happens all the time. I don't want to give any of these sellers the opportunity to just completely shut me down before even hearing me out. Now, I'm not doing it in a way of malicious way. I'm just trying to get straight to the point because that's generally what they want. Now, if you notice, I also said, I know you're probably gotten 1 million of these phone calls a day. I say that in a laughing, joking manner, and I'm not trying to be a jokester. I'm not trying to be funny, but if I can get them to laugh and to relate, that generally will break down the wall of their communication because of all the phone calls they're getting. And they're generally going to be open to having a conversation with me if I can break down that wall. That's my only focus and my only goal when I'm on the phone with him is to break down the barrier, build a rapport, and ask probing questions. Now, from the conversation, depending on how that goes, if I can get through that initial wall and that initial barrier, and I can continue on the conversation, from that point on, I'm doing nothing else but asking questions. So, for instance, if I said, I know you've gotten 1 million of these phone calls. Are you still the owner of 123 Main Street? And Tom were to say, yeah, I've gotten about 2 million of these phone calls today. But yeah, I am the owner of 123 Main Street. I would just go straight into the fact of, okay, great. I did notice that the home came off the market. I imagine you had some plans on where you were going to be moving to. I'd love to throw my hat in the ring to interview for the job to get the property sold for you. And I would see where the conversation went from there. If sometimes you'll have conversations where people will say, yeah, I am interviewing other agents. You're more than welcome to come by, and you immediately go and set a date and a time. And once you have your date and time booked, you get off the phone. Other times, most times, you're going to have to understand your situation more and understand what they're looking for. A lot of times, if I were to say I'd love to interview for the role to get, or for the role to get the next interview the next agent, you see a lot of these conversations. These are the objections that you're going to start seeing. We're going to release later, or for my absolute favorite, and it's kind of worded a little bit different, but we already have another agent. Generally, when they say that, their other agent is the agent that really was trying to sell the property beforehand. And that's an objection that you have to overcome, but you don't need to do it in a way that's degrading to the other agent. But I would say something along the lines of, well, I'm curious, you have that property listed for 6 months prior with that other agent. What do you think they're going to do differently to help get the property sold this time? And something like a probing question like that, I'm not trying to belittle their opinion. I'm not trying to degrade the other agent, like I mentioned. I'm trying to understand what they think is going to be different this time versus why it didn't sell the last time they were on the market. Those are all probing questions. That's what that all boils back down to. Now, granted, another one, we're done trying to sell. That is an answer that they generally are just trying to avoid the harsh reality of their property didn't sell and they gave up. Now, if somebody were to come to me and say, we're done trying to sell, my question at that point in time would be, well, where were your plans? Where were you moving to? A lot of times they will start opening up. Once they start opening up and having the conversation of where they were moving to, or, oh, my grandkids all live in Texas. We were going to go move to Texas to be close to my grandkids. And I would go into, well, if you're trying to move closer to your grandkids, why not give them the opportunity to have another conversation with me to see if we can get your property to sell? So it's really just dependent on asking the right questions. I don't have a script that I use or a piece of paper in front of me. I am doing nothing but probing questions and asking questions. So the one thing I would want you to remember and understand, if you want to get into converting unexpired and canceled listings, ask questions. Let them tell you why things didn't work or what their motives are. Once you have that information, it's just a matter of getting in front of them and re-solidifying why you can help them and what difference you can make for them. And in doing so, just being relatable and being a human being. That's the number one thing I tell people is just be a human being. Don't be a robot. Does anybody have any questions on that part? Okay.
What might be some of the other objections that you get other than what you mentioned? What are some other things, and how do you handle those objections?
A lot of times, one of the most common objections I get is the other agent didn't communicate with him. The other agent didn't work an open house. The other agent didn't have any showings. They weren't happy with the photographs. It could be a whole accumulation of everything. I just went on a listing appointment last week that they were on the market for 3 months. The sellers, the listing agent previously only took 11 photos of the property and didn't showcase it in the way that they felt they would have. And in doing so, the seller told me that, and the seller, I had the conversation with him. So now I know, because they told me that they didn't think their photos were good enough. They don't think their photos marketed the property well enough. Now I know, going back and looking at it, there were only 11 photos in MLS for that property. Now I know that I need 40 to 60 photos to showcase the property for the seller to understand and know that I'm going to do what I need to do to get them across the finish line. Excuse me. Sorry. Any other questions? Nope. Okay. So I'm sure everyone has heard of this many, many times, but the most money that you will make from this low-hanging fruit is in the follow-up. And creating action plans or follow-up plans are a huge factor in staying top of mind and staying in front of everyone to try to convert these expired and canceled listings. Now, you're not going to be able to convert every single canceled and expired listing on the phone immediately. And one of the big things that I wanted to help just kind of express today is staying consistent and being of value. And what I mean by that is we live in a digital world, and I'm so sorry. Hang on just a second. We live in a digital world where texting can be such a utilized resource for us. And I don't mean text messages as in just a text message with saying, hey, I saw you have this house for sale, I want to help you. I am utilizing more and more video text messages. And I am personalizing them for areas that I specifically want to be in. So for instance, I'll go into Mojo, and I live in Winter Garden, which is West Orlando. That's my hometown. That's where my office is. I will go into Winter Garden for those listings that day. And I will pull all the expired and canceled listings for Winter Garden, and I will send a video text message if I cannot get them on the phone to every single one of those expired and canceled listings. 3 out of 4 times, 9 times out of 10, however you want to look at it, I get responses for those video text messages. Now, is it a absolutely come and see the house, let's talk about listing it? No, not at all. There are a lot of times where I'll get a response of, hey man, I'm getting a million of these, I'm just not interested right now. That's okay, because I'm still soliciting a response, and they are acknowledging that I'm reaching out to them, that they know who I am and why I'm reaching out. So that's another important factor that you can feed into your follow-up strategy when it comes to calling on expired and canceled listings. There's nothing better still to this day than calling on expired and canceled listings to get them on the phone and convert them for an appointment right then. But many, many people ask me, do I leave voicemails? Do I try to stay in touch with them? No, I don't. I don't leave voicemails because Mojo provides all this information in front of me as I'm calling these people. And if anyone were to call me back with this information, I would have absolutely no idea who they are, I don't know anything about the property. I don't know anything about their house, why it didn't sell, what price it was. I don't know anything. Where if I'm being very targeted in my text messages, I know I have all their information saved. I'm saving their contact. I'm creating a video personalized specifically for them. And I have quite a bit of information. So if they were to call me, I can better prepare myself to have a more intelligent conversation to help convert them to help me list their property. So that is, I'm getting closer towards, that's about it at the moment. I did want to talk about that in where we're kind of at right now, though. But most important thing today, I have a couple other things I do want to kind of go over a little bit. But when having these conversations and talking to these people for low-hanging fruit of expired and canceled listings and creating your right now business, there's a few things that I would recommend is, one, being confident on the phone and building that confidence regularly in role play sessions or having conversations with people in your office. I know it is uncomfortable, but the quickest way to build confidence on the phone to converting and having these conversations is repetition. And I mentioned before that first 30 days when I was just getting started in the business and calling for 4, 6, 8 hours, that would have been avoided if I would have had somebody to role play with and have an idea of what I was doing and who I was talking to and what conversations I was trying to have. I was blind. I didn't have any idea what I was doing. So I was just trying to figure it out. So building that confidence, having a role play partner, and sharpening your skills is going to create business for yourself much quicker than just working through scripts and trying to figure out trial by error. So that would be one of my biggest suggestions for you today. Now, I do want to kind of open it up a little bit more in general of just conversations. If any of you have tried it before, any questions you might have. But one thing to keep in mind, we've talked about confidence. We talked about conversation framework, probing questions, your CRM system and following everything up and keeping everything in line. The number one thing out of that list of information that I've just provided to you is your mindset. I tell people all the time, smile and dial. When you're on the phone, if you're not smiling, you're not showcasing energy. I'm currently standing in my office right now. This is what makes a difference, and people can feel that energy over the phone. If you're laid back, calm, cool, collected, very monotone, it all based on your conversation that you're having with the person, but people can feel your confidence, people can feel your energy, and people can feel you smiling. So if there's one thing that you can pick up from today's conversation, even if you stumble on the phone, even if you stumble through a conversation, be energetic, be confident, and speak thoroughly and smile. And people will still feel that. And I think that will make a difference for you just to start with. So that's all I have on my presentation of, my PowerPoint and kind of going through everything. So I'll open it up a little bit more to just any questions anyone might have, or if there's anything else I could help with.
There's a question in the corner.
What are the things that we should not say?
That is a wide range of answer. The one thing, okay, so 2 things actually. The price of their home and how much you charge, what your commission structure is. That is not something that is not a conversation that I want to have over the phone. One, on pricing, let's talk there. You can't have any idea from being a quick phone call for 10 minutes of what comparables you're looking at, what condition the house is in, what location the house is in, what price point it should be at. That is something that a lot of times when you're making these phone calls, people will say, well, what do you think my house should sell for? I use that as an opportunity for me to book an appointment, because I tell them all the time that there's 3 things that sell a home: your price, condition, location. And in order to establish your price, we need to have an idea of what your condition is and what location you're in. So in order for me to do that, I need to come by and take a look at the home. Are you available tomorrow at 2 or Thursday at 3? Same thing with the commission structure too. It's understanding a lot more. People don't, if you're charging 3%, people don't want to hear that over the phone, especially when there's discount agents out there that only charge, 1 or 2% in your area. You need to showcase your value. And you need to build a rapport to show why you're valuable. And the only way you can do that is in person.
Got a quick question for you.
course.
We have a lot of new agents in here, and I know how to do it with the MLS. Can you showcase to some of these new agents how to actually pull expireds from the MLS so you don't have to pay, say, Mojo Sales or somebody? I think that's one of the very frustrating things for new agents in here. Come in and they got to pay for this app and pay for that app and pay. You see what I'm saying? Before they get anything. So
there's my MLS might be. Where are you guys located at?
We both are on Matrix, but it's okay. I'll showcase that for everybody after.
So when that would be cool if you can. So mine is probably going to be a little bit different for you. Is what we'd have to look at it. But one thing you can do, you can pull expired and canceled listings directly from MLS. You can use there's a couple cross-reference tools that I would recommend using before you're paying for using any of the other systems. So use MLS to pull the addresses for expired and canceleds. And then from there, cross-reference with your county property appraiser. So based on what address you're seeing from MLS, cross-reference that to get your names from the property appraiser. Once you have the names from property appraiser, I always recommend a website called True People Search. And True People Search is a free tool that you can use. You can type in someone's name and their city and state, and it will pull up all of the people in that area under that information, and that will provide email address and phone numbers. Now, those have been somewhat accurate. They've been somewhat not accurate. It's kind of hard to tell, but that is the best free resource that I've found as of late without using something like Mojo Sales.
Do you do any mail outs in your follow-up? Like, do you mail anything out?
So I used to use golden letters. I did not personally find benefit from them, but I also don't think I sent enough of them. I am not personally using postcards or sending out any mail. I have before quite a few times. I've sent out, my fair share of letters and golden letters and different things, and I've not seen any return from them. There's still, in my opinion, nothing better than a good old phone call or sending out a video text message to get some sort of response. Now, that is just speaking to expired and canceled listings. I do send out monthly postcards to my community and my farm. That I definitely do. But that's just to stay top of mind. They're not actually expired and canceled listings. That's just monthly postcards to my farm to stay in front of everyone.
Was there anyone on YouTube that you watched in the very beginning make expired calls that you would still recommend to this day?
So Mike Ferry is where I started listening in his podcasts and his conversations, his sheets that he uses. That he's got a lot of daily affirmations or conversation framework questions to be asking. He does focus a lot on scripts, which obviously, as I mentioned, that's not I prefer conversation framework. But a lot of my questions, a lot of my probing questions, a lot of my information has come from him directly. The daily tracker sheet that I mentioned to you, that template basically came from him. I just modified it a little bit to what I'm trying to do. So Mike Ferry would be my number one suggestion. And different podcasts or YouTube's videos. And then the other one would be Jeff Glover.
Say that. You said Jeff Love?
Just Jeff Glover.
Okay. And Mike Ferry, F-R-R-Y, we just find on YouTube.
Mike, M-I-K-E, and his last name is Ferry, F-E-R-R-Y. And then the other one is Jeff, J-E-F-F. His last name is Glover, G-L-O-V-E-R. So they're both coaches in the business and coaching platforms, but their philosophy is based on cold calling. The one thing I do want to tell you with Mike Ferry, if you're looking at videos and different information from him, his philosophy is cold calling and lead generation. His son is also one of the largest coaches, which is Tom Ferry. Tom Ferry's platform, I don't use, that's more of a marketing platform, videos, social media. They have two completely different philosophies. So when you are looking it up, make sure you're looking at Mike Ferry for cold calling. Anybody have any other questions?
What other questions do you guys have for a guy that does this every day? Like, to me, I guess the question that the market shifts, right? So, Trevor, I stopped making expired calls back in 2020 because the market was different and there wasn't a lot of expired. So, like, what are you finding with that, and how do you handle when you know, how do you handle situations like that?
So, Aaron, that's actually a very, very good question. So my framework completely shifted because there were not any expired and canceled. However, there's something called circle prospecting within Mojo. And if you don't have expired and canceled listings in your market, and things are flying off the shelf and things are, multiple offers and on the market for 4 days, completely shift your framework. I started circle prospecting for neighborhoods that I wanted to target. And my conversation was entirely different. My conversation was to them, hey, look, these houses are off the market in 5 days. I had a listing around the corner that sold in 2 days with 12 offers on it. You're getting the most bang for your buck right now, and you're getting top dollar for your listing. Have you guys ever considered selling? So it's a completely different market and a completely different shift. But if you want to create business for yourself in real estate and you want to be a go-getter, shift your front mindset and shift your way of thinking based on what the market is telling you and what market you're currently in. Central Florida, we have some properties that are, flying off the market. I had a listing 3 weeks ago that had, 47 showings on it and 7 offers. But I also have 2 other showings or listings in the market right now that have been sitting in the market for 90 days. So we're in kind of a weird spot. Now with that neighborhood, the listing that had 47 showings on it, I circle prospected that entire neighborhood and said, hey, I had 7 offers, only 1 of them got accepted. But then also that same day, I called and expired and canceled listings. So it's really just a matter of what area you're looking in and what your market looks like.
Thank you.
Of course. Hopefully this helped everybody at least give some sort of motivation that cold calling doesn't have to be terrible. Calling on expired and canceled listings can be hard, but it's a matter of just the conversation that you're having, what the conversation looks like, and just being a human being and trying to help. That's really the most important. So hopefully that gave everybody a little bit of confidence.
Thank you.
But do you mind sharing your contact information with us?
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah. I will. Aaron, do you want me to just text you?
Yeah, send me out any of your social media links and whatnot, and when I give the recording and the playback, post it all there. Yeah, thank you.
Of course. Well, I appreciate the time, everybody. And if you guys don't have any questions, I'll let everybody run. And feel free to reach out to me. I'll share all my info with her. Please don't hesitate to call me. I'm always happy to talk. I'm always happy to help. If you ever run into anything, feel free to let me know.
Thank you.